Well, hello, my name is Fred Appel. I'm the Senior Editor for Religion Publishing at Princeton University Press. And I'm here with E.J. Dionne Jr., author of a new book entitled Sold Out, Reclaiming Faith and Politics After the Religious Right. It'll be published by Princeton University Press early in the new year, early in 2008. E.J., thank you very much for agreeing to speak with me.
Oh, good to be with you.
I thought I would begin by asking you to talk about the title of your book, Sold Out. What is being sold out and by whom?
Well, you know, there's both a substantive reason for that title and a personal reason. The substantive reason is that sold out really is intended to make 2 points simultaneously. It is sold out in the sense of exhaustion, where I think millions of Americans, including millions of religious people, are exhausted by a style of religious politics that really turned religious groups into parts of a political machine and turned faith into a very ideological and partisan form of engagement. And most people who come to faith don't do so to be part of a political machine. It's also sold out in the other sense of that term, that to me it is a great sellout of our religious traditions, particularly Christianity and Judaism, to say that they only apply to a very narrow aspect of our public debate, to say that they are only about abortion and gay marriage, perhaps stem cell research, when in fact our great religious traditions have always had a lot to say about how we organize ourselves as a society, what constitutes justice and a just arrangement. Religion, on the whole, has not been, as many think, a conservative force. It's usually been a critical force because it calls us and our societies and institutions to a higher standard. And so the book is arguing that there is a huge almost revolution, or actually, as I call it in the book, a reformation, a new reformation going on, where what's characterized the relationship between religion and politics in the 80s and 90s, that period is over. The religious right is over. The new period that we're facing will be very different, and religious people are really demanding that their faith be seen as part of a much broader engagement with public life. Now, there's also a personal side to that title. I was discussing the book with my wife, who came up with a great title for a book I wrote a long time ago called Why Americans Hate Politics. And I said to her, you got to bail me out again and find me a good title. And we were on a car trip to the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and my son was sitting in the back seat, my daughters were in the far back. And my wife was riffing on titles with the word soul in it. And then my son in the back seat suddenly yelled out, "Sold." And I shouted back in good call and response fashion, "Out." And then we started discussing Sold Out and decided it actually very much applied to this book and to the argument I was making. So that's where it came from.
I wanted to pick up on something you just said about the religious right in this country and about how it's over, or the era of the religious right is over. What do you mean by that? I assume that many conservative-leaning Christian evangelicals will continue to vote Republican, as they have been in the last few presidential elections.
Right. I don't pretend to argue in this book that you're going to see a massive political conversion. What you are seeing are a lot of conservative Christians who are saying, well, we care about other things besides this narrow agenda. I talk in the book about Rich Cizik of the National Association of Evangelicals, who argues that the environment, stewardship of the earth, global warming should be of central concern to religious people and Christians. I think if you look at Rick Warren, who plays a major role in the book, the author of A Purpose-Driven Life, he is certainly conservative in most political senses. And yet he has talked about how Christians who don't care about the poor are clearly not living up to the gospel. And he invited Barack Obama to speak to his church once, along with Sam Brownback, about the problem of AIDS. And he came under pressure from some more political people on the right to disinvite Obama. And Rick Warren said, you know, I'm not right-wing or left-wing, I'm for the whole bird, he said. And I think there are a lot of, if you will, whole bird religious people out there who may still vote a certain way. My hunch is politically this is important because Democrats who've gotten shellacked in the white evangelical community in the past, I think now have an opportunity to reduce their losses. That could be very significant in the 2008 election. But I think this goes beyond one election cycle. It's about a larger conversion and transformation that's going on in that community. And then, I am a Catholic, and there's a significant part of this book, some of it personal, that deals with arguments within Roman Catholicism. And you do have a lot of ferment in the Catholic Church. Some of the same arguments about what are called non-negotiable issues in the Catholic dialogue, the same set, abortion, stem cell research, gay marriage, and assisted suicide and the like, versus Catholics who may indeed share the Church's position on those issues, but argue that its tradition of social teaching and its insistence upon social justice, its opposition to the death penalty, its insistence that the case for war is a very difficult moral case to make and has to pass a very high hurdle. I think you have a debate between those forces in the Church, and I think there are plenty of people in the middle trying to make sense of that debate. So this is a discussion going on across the religious landscape.
So you've spoken just now about a broadening of the political debate amongst religious people who aren't strictly interested, just interested in these so-called life issues, but who are also interested in good stewardship of the environment, social justice. Is this an unprecedented development in your view, or does it reach back to an earlier stage of American political history?
I think that the aberration was the rise of the religious right, and that throughout our history, you had the strong social gospel movement at the turn of the century. You had one of the heroes in my book is Reinhold Niebuhr, the great theologian, who spoke very critically about American society. Was a liberal who could be critical of liberalism and was a towering figure in American religious and intellectual life. And within the Catholic tradition, this tradition of social thought goes back to Leo XIII. The New Deal was greatly shaped by the Catholic bishops' 1919 program for social reconstruction. So I think when we look back in 50 years, I think what we're going to see is that this period that saw the rise of a highly politicized and very conservative religious right was the aberrant period. Again, it does not mean religious conservatism is going away. It does not, my book disagrees with religious conservatives, but is not disrespectful to them. But I think this very ideological and partisan approach was a mistake, and I think a lot of people in the United States are coming to recognize that.
Yes.